And you know, President Trump's back at it again. This guy's too much. He's out there back on his 51st state.
So there's been a lot of talk from Canadians saying, I don't want to go to the US anymore.
We're not going to America. We're not spending our money there. It's Canada first, baby.
Exactly when it appeared like Donald Trump and his supporters had finally stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States of America, the rhetoric has come back up again. In a recent military meeting, where Trump reportedly spoke for more than 70 minutes to high-ranking generals and officials from the Defense Department, the concept was brought up once more. Then, why is this even relevant? Why should people in Canada be concerned about something that at first glance would appear to be nothing more than another one of Trump's rants? This is due to the fact that a perilous story is concealed beneath the rhetoric, a narrative that millions of his supporters hear, repeat, and accept as the norm. To add insult to injury, each time it makes a comeback, it undermines the way that Americans perceive their northern neighbor. Consider the following scenario. 77 million people hear those statements and begin to believe that Canada is weak, struggling, and ready to be absorbed. If the words of Trump themselves do not disturb you, consider the following. What takes place? Is that something that can be considered harmless talk anymore? Let's take a look at what real statements Trump made. According to him, Canadian authorities had called him and expressed interest in the missile defense system that the United States of America had. His reaction to them was, "Why don't you just join our country?" Becoming the 51st state will result in you receiving it at no cost. It appears to be one of his typical off-the-cuff comments, at least on the surface. But here's the problem. Trump almost never speaks without a specific goal in mind. His statements cause waves to be created, whether they are inspired by bravado, manipulation, or simply a desire to test the waters. His followers, on the other hand, do not take them as jokes. They continue to reinforce them until the concept is no longer as implausible as it once was. The Canadian people, on the other hand, are not simply disregarding the propaganda. They have already begun to strike back in ways that are hitting the economy of the United States where it hurts. Travel across international borders. When compared to the previous year, the number of southbound crossings from British Columbia appears to be decreasing month after month, according to data from Whatcom County. This is not merely a passing fad. Rather, it denotes a pattern. When it comes to shopping, dining, or vacationing, fewer Canadians are entering the state of Washington. How come? Because a greater number of people experience feelings of being unsafe and undesired. In the event that you were concerned that you could be harassed at the border, or even worse, would you take your family somewhere? This is supported by the numbers. The data on credit card spending that was supplied by Travel Oregon demonstrates how significant the reduction actually is. In Portland, Canadian spending has decreased by 54%, while on the Oregon coast, it has decreased by a staggering 63%. That is not merely a decrease, rather, it is a non-purchase in real time. Give it some thought. There will be fewer weekend getaways, fewer shopping outings, and fewer vacations with the family. This was something that British Columbians did on a regular basis for decades. Now, they are wondering why they should bother. Why would you want to spend money in a country that, the moment you enter, treats you with something of suspicion? On top of that, there is the border itself, which is the location where the problems become tangible. The United States Customs and Border Protection has been known to treat Canadians in a manner that is deemed to be deplorable. The confiscation and search of the phones lasted for close to an hour. Without providing a reason, travelers are kept in holding areas. On the basis of something as silly as carrying too much clothing, women were chained to benches for a period of several hours. I can only imagine how embarrassing that would be. Does that seem like the kind of greeting you anticipate receiving when you are merely attempting to pay a visit to your fiancé or go shopping for the weekend? In the meantime, officials from the United States explain all of this by claiming that searches are conducted to prevent child pornography, terrorism, or smuggling. However, the data do not tell the same story. The number of phone searches has increased by about 17% compared to the previous record in 2022. There is no coincidence in that. A direct correlation exists between this and Trump's efforts to impose more stringent immigration laws. Could it be that Canadians are being grouped together with criminals and terrorists? Doesn't it seem like that? When compared to entering other nations, this experience is quite different. Travelers have reported that they were greeted with warmth in nations such as Vietnam and China, which are frequently criticized by the United States for their authoritarian policies. With a friendly smile, they were greeted and told, "Welcome to our country." Now contrast that with the power trips and intimidation that Canadians experience when they go through customs in the United States. I want you to ask yourself, which kind of greeting do you prefer? It is not simply about border security or missile defense that Trump is talking about in his rhetoric. The fact that he and his base perceive Canada as a pawn rather than a partner or ally is clearly demonstrated by this. In addition, when he reiterates it, his followers begin to adopt that way of thinking about him. Despite the fact that Trump will eventually leave office, the idea will not be abandoned by the millions of people who support him. That constitutes the true danger. It is not Trump who brings a stop to the hyperbole. Rather, it outlives him. But this is not merely empty bluster. It is the allies of Trump who are supporting him. His image of a more assertive America is echoed by former officials such as Pete Hegseth, who even makes a passing reference to the possibility of penalizing Canada when our policies do not coordinate with theirs. Do you remember when Pete threatened to withdraw pre-clearance from airports in Canada due to the fact that fewer people were coming south? In the process of watching Canadian diplomat Colin Robertson call him out, it became clear why resistance is so important. There was no mistaking Pete's exasperation. He was not accustomed to the refusal of Canadians. That demonstrates how entitled the officials of the United States feel toward us, doesn't it? Moreover, here's the kicker. While Canadians are cutting back on their travel south, border control in the United States is tightening even further. United States Customs and Border Protection is now conducting screenings of individuals heading north into Canada at the Blaine-Washington crossing before they even leave the country. In a strict sense, exit checks are not new. Nonetheless, the seriousness of the situation is. Lanes are combined into a single one. Vehicles are inspected by K-9 units. In the event that leaving the country is deemed to be questionable, officers will stop and question drivers. Why at this time? In what specific way are they looking for something? How does it make you feel when you are harassed, not just when you are entering the United States, but also when you are leaving it? When you consider all of these factors, the talk about the 51st state, the decrease in travel, the tightening of border security, and the threats from leaders in the United States, you can see a trend. There is more to this than just what Trump has said. The topic at hand is the widening gap that exists between Americans and Canadians. Retraction, decreased spending, decreased travel, and decreased trust are all characteristics of Canadians. The invective coming from the South, on the other hand, is just getting louder. Now, the most important question is, what kind of response should Canada give? Is simply avoiding travel sufficient? In order to reduce our reliance on the United States, should we work to enhance our ties with Europe and Asia? Would it be more appropriate for our leaders to make it abundantly obvious that Canada will never be coerced into becoming a state by using a more robust voice on the international stage? Due to the fact that Trump is not the only threat. The process of normalizing this discourse is what it is. After a sufficient number of individuals have repeated it, it will stop being a fringe thought and will instead become a talking point. And when millions of people in the United States already believe it, this is not something that can be ignored. It is not necessary for Canada to be the 51st state of the United States. What it needs is determination, the ability to maintain its position, to fight back, and to tell the world that independence is not something that can be questioned. Therefore, you should ask yourself the following question. If Trump and his followers are already talking about Canada as if it is theirs, what will happen if we cease paying attention to what they are saying? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.